This is Joe Pugh for IFLTV. Delighted to be joined over Zoom by Mr. Gareth A Davies. Gareth, there's so much to talk about.
Yeah.
So many topics from yesterday to unpack. But before any of that, we haven't kind of touched base since Sunday afternoon when we did get the tragic news of Ricky Hatton's passing. And I know you've paid excellent tributes on TalkSport, the video you've done with Spencer Oliver and Paul Smith. And ever since then, really, you've been flying the flag, as we all have trying to be doing for Ricky since Sunday. So, yeah, if you'd just like to share a few words on the legend that is Ricky Hatton.
Yeah, I mean, I also wrote a thousand words kind of in memoriam to him for the Telegraph, which was a big outpouring of emotion for Ricky. And the way I went into it was I felt devastated, genuinely, when I woke up. I was in Las Vegas on that morning, woke up very early to go to the bathroom, and obviously I had a ton of messages, not least from people, outlets wanting me to get involved and talk about Ricky, and it was a big shock. And in one way, it was wonderful to be able to pay tribute to him. I was, as I say, lucky enough. It's not something I'd ever wanted to do, but I got to see the tribute on Sky News from my room in Las Vegas, because I was on the broadcast at that time with Sky News, and the outpouring for him was amazing, and it kind of helped me construct a piece in which I began by saying I was devastated. I genuinely felt devastated. I still do. I got a message back from Carol Hatton last night, Ricky's mum, having sent her some of my words on it. And obviously, I've known Carol a long time. Always been friends with the Hatton family. They were a unit. They were a unit when we were covering them. I mean, I went to the carpet shop or the carpet stall in Glossop Market to do a piece with Carol one day, bossing the fitters to go here, bossing the fitters to go, come on, Ray, go over there, put that in there, get that laid out, cut that up. And we ended up on Woman's Hour on BBC Radio 4. I recorded it for Woman's Hour. And she was a great character, and she was pea in a pod with Ricky, frankly. Carol with her vodka in a water bottle ringside at the MGM, for the big fights. And the fact that I was in Vegas actually hit home even more, because those are the big memories of Ricky. Yes, there's the Juan Lascano Ricky Fatton night with the suit, at Manchester City football club stadium. Yes, of course, there's the night with Kostya You. But more than anything, when I was able to put pen to paper, and I didn't have long to write it, and it really just did come off the top of my head because I was on deadline, and obviously I was 8 hours behind you in Vegas. I woke up at probably about 1 or 2 in the afternoon, so it was out there already. My overriding feeling was that I'd lost a best friend. That's what it felt like. But millions of us felt like that, and that we had lost a best friend, because Ricky, brutal and relentless as he was in the ring, with the that noise he made when he threw punches, which went all the way back to the body bag and Billy Graham at the converted hat factory. Before you were born, this is, when he trained there in Hyde in the factory, and we used to go and see him. There was a giant iguana in Billy's office as well that used to crawl on the sofa, like it was about that big. Used to crawl along the back of the sofa while you were sitting there, all crammed in there. It was about 110 degrees in the office to keep the iguana alive. And as you know, Billy Graham loved reptiles. And I tell all this because so many memories came flooding back. But the thing is about Ricky, that he never had security. Well, he had Coogan for a little while, for the Manny Pacquiao fight. And I ran into Paul Speak, his manager, and Coogan. Probably the first time I ever met Coogan, actually, was 2009, I went out very early to spend time around the wildcard gym, round Manny Pacquiao, then round Ricky in Vegas. And he'd overtrained for that fight. And obviously Coogan was his security guy and company ahead of the Manny Pacquiao fight. So many memories. Going to Nine Fine Irishmen in New York after fights, and everyone's got a Guinness. And right in the corner or right in the centre of the pub, and it's not a massive pub. You've been in there, I imagine, yeah?
No.
No, okay. Well, it probably takes about 300 people, but all Ricky fans. No security, you know, apart from maybe a Coogan standing next to him, having a drink with him, looking around. And just everyone in there crammed around Ricky having a laugh. Him and his shit shirt competitions, the hours of fun, the regaling of stories. So many, there's loads of tales of daring do of his late at night that I can't really tell. You know, for him ending up in some girl's fluffy slippers, drunk, trying to find the way back to the house because he'd gone to buy condoms and he got lost on his way back, or that's just one of a myriad of stories. He was an amazing, this is when he was younger, amazing raconteur, not a bad bone in his body. A truly beautiful human being, and you know, he took great pleasure in entertaining us. He'd grin at you because you were falling over laughing. Once I went to film with him for DAZN for a day, looking back on the Mayweather fight for a series. I did it with Amir Khan and a few others, and I had to get the body bag on, and he doubled me up with the body shot, and he was grinning away. Everything about him was just so amazing. Man of the people, one of us, the people's champion, never lost a common touch in spite of earning millions in the ring, still played in his local darts team. Just so sad that he couldn't come to terms with those losses that made him go from right up there, from the heights to the lows, and you know, who knows what was going on inside him. He was quite open. I did several interviews with him over the last 20 years, 10 years, where he'd said he'd felt low, where he'd wanted to take his own life, where there were low times. He was still involved with Chloe Watson and other boxers. He was about to train for another fight. He was always putting his videos out there, but something. I mean, the inquest isn't open yet, so we don't know what. It hasn't been revealed yet. His actual cause of death. But most of us are talking around Ricky and him not wanting to carry on in life because he talked about it a lot. They had darkness enveloping him at times. That's the contradiction about this wonderful human being. And as I said in a note to Carol yesterday, and she's replied, Carol Hatton, his mum, you know, we all loved your beautiful son Richard, as she called him. And we did. And the tributes and the outpourings have made me cry so many times over the last few days. He was a wonderful human being, a wonderful fighter. It was a pleasure to know him for 28 years. Well, I was at his debut in Widnes when he was 18. You know, we were being alerted to this great talent signed under Frank Warren. So many great nights. It was like being on tour with the Hordes when, honestly, when you flew over to a fight for Ricky Hatton, the entire plane were Ricky Hatton fans. Ricky Hatton hands. Ricky Hatton fans. So sad. And I'm glad that when we all came together as a media community for the first time yesterday, to segue for you, Eubank Ben to Unfinished Business press conference, that everyone was talking about him, weren't they? You know, and it was great that they had a tribute montage to him at the press conference.
Yeah, Gareth, I was going to kind of segue there, but one thing I'm sure you'll agree that just solidified the impact he had was yesterday when all the media come together for a huge fight in Eubank Jr. versus Ben 2. which ordinarily we'd all be excited for, which we were all excited for. There was an underlying kind of sadness and mourning about the room yesterday because
It was subdued. It was
subdued because
subdued.
95%, if not 100%, of people in that room all had a memory of Ricky Hatton and
Yeah,
all felt like they knew him. And for me, that was the
yeah.
time where, whilst we did watch all the tributes pour in, which was excellent to see, but there was a real togetherness about yesterday, which there isn't usually at press conferences.
Oh, I think there have been in the past. I think there are
But it
times
was
when.
different yesterday,
I
Gareth.
know it was like you say, there was an air of mourning. There was an air of wanting to talk about Ricky. I mean, I had a little sob yesterday because all came back to the fore because we were back in that cradle of the media and so many people with more memories of Ricky. And what I've left out there is he fought three of the top five pound for pound in his career as well. You know, incredible. For a boxer who rarely used the jab. You know, he just got on the, as he said, he had like T-Rex arms, Ricky, and he's the little lad from Hattersley, as he used to call himself. A joy to watch boxing. That night against Kostya, when he was physically relentless, and Mickey Van didn't pull him off, the referee, barely at all, and made Kostya quit on his stool. Very dangerous, naturalized Australian, originally out of Siberia. Very, very good fighter at the time, but brilliant matchmaking at the time by Frank Warren as well, because Kostya had been out for, I hope my memory serves me right, maybe 15 months at that point. So, and Ricky was 26 and he was flying, and he could take a punch, Ricky, as well. He could take a punch, and he could walk through punches as well. And once he got a rhythm and a momentum going, he was fucking incredible, honestly. It's because, we in the midst of time, you always forget the greatness of a fighter when their personality is so powerful. He was an amazing raconteur by the end as well. Just loved to entertain in the ring and outside it.
Certainly, and it goes without saying our thoughts are with all of the friends and family of Ricky Hatton. Yeah, there is only one Ricky Hatton, and there will only ever be one Ricky Hatton. Now, Gareth, let's throw it to yesterday, which was interesting to say the least. Before we kind of pick at certain things what were said by Eddie Hearn, Conor Benn, Chris Eubank Jr., Bomac, who we weren't expecting to be there, what was your kind of overriding thoughts on what we did see for about an hour at 6 o'clock yesterday evening?
Well, there's a very fractious relationship, isn't there, between the Benns and the Eubanks, and the Eubanks and the Hearns, and the Benns and the Shaloms. And there's no love lost after a 12 round war in April, and 7 months later they'll go at it again on November the 15th. I'm on record as saying I thought one and done was enough. But I don't mind a second fight now it's here. I thought it was very ill-advised of Chris Eubank to bust into what Eddie Hearn was saying when he was paying tribute to Ricky Hatton that got it all kicked off. I'd like to think that Chris Eubank was doing that and wasn't listening to what Hearn was saying, because it was very ill-advised to not allow Eddie Hearn to say a few words about Ricky Hatton. Conor Benn doing the right thing, in my view, by wearing the light blue football shirt of Manchester City Football Club in tribute, in testament to Ricky, to his admiration for Ricky. That really kicked it off, because Eddie was calling him an asshole, or whatever he was calling him at that time, for not letting him just say those words about Ricky to begin with. But then, of course, Eubank closed Hearn down and just cited a litany of complaints about the last promotion, the contract breaches, the fines, the rehydration clause. I wrote them all down. That they'd sabotaged a weigh-in for him, that there was biased refereeing. I'm not sure about that. I don't agree with them. Biased commentators. That they tried to get Billy Joe Saunders into his dressing room. Nothing wrong with that, by the way. And Hearn was replying all the time that it was just waffle. But the thing that stood out to me, which Eddie responded heavily to afterwards, and at the time slightly as well, was so I've just got some notes up here, was the fact that Eubank had complained that his health was put at risk because he wasn't allowed out for 20 minutes in an ambulance when he was in a gurney, and that it had been done deliberately by your stooges or your people. And Eddie Hearn was probably rightly indignant about that, because there's absolutely no way on earth that Eddie Hearn, cad that he can be, egotist that he is, narcissist that he is at times, brilliant promoter as he is, would have tried to preclude Chris Eubank from going to hospital. I cannot and do not believe that. Moreover, as we saw in the post-event interviews, he said, the contracts aren't with me for this. They're with Riyadh Season. They're with Turkey Al Sheikh. So to blame Matchroom for the tardiness of the ambulance leaving the stadium is nothing to do with Matchroom. And so he was probably within his rights to get very annoyed about that, and he was indignant. And it's not often we see Eddie truly rattled, but I think he was. And as he was saying, come on then, Chris, say it was Matchroom, because you're going to have to apologise afterwards, or you'll get sued for it, because that is an accusation that he deliberately put Eubank's health at risk in the ambulance. So it was a fascinating press conference. It was a fascinating argument. Ben Shalom and Conor Benn went at it as well. Conor Benn saying, "Oh, what are you doing up here? Who are you? What are you doing?" In reference, of course, to him losing his Sky contract, having a go at him. So it was very interesting. It was very intriguing. We perhaps needed that to ignite the event, which I think will still be well attended as long as the weather's okay in November at Spurs.
Yeah, look, there were serious allegations from Chris Eubank Jr., as you alluded to, regarding the fact that he wasn't allowed to leave the venue in the ambulance. Do you think we
Well,
will
he
see
was, but he said he was delayed 20
delayed?
minutes.
Yes. Do you think we'll see an apology from Chris Eubank Jr.?
Well, it depends on and whether the comments afterwards of Eddie Hearn are taken notice of, because, as he said, he's put it out there that this was Turkey Al Sheikh's promotion. The contracts are with Riyadh Season, I understand it, and Ring Magazine, or maybe Ring Magazine, because it was a Ring Magazine fight. So the contracts are with the Saudi Arabians. That's what he claimed yesterday,
The
wasn't it?
contract's with Seller, I believe.
With Seller. There we go. Thank you. Thank you. I was trying to find the right. It was with Seller, but it's a Ring Magazine event. But the contract's with Seller. Thank you. Thank you for reminding me. So Eubank has put himself in a position where he apologised going into the last event. Remember, for calling all the promoters dirty rats, and Frank Warren about to sue him, and all those things that went on. And then we had an apology 2 hours later, didn't we? We haven't had one yet, but whether there is this time, I don't know. But he may have to issue an apology if he doesn't want to end up in court. He also had a go at Robert Smith and the Boxing Board of Control over the fine fees and where they go. Now, maybe we'll get a response from Robert Smith and the Boxing Board of Control, but he was also accusing them of misappropriation of the fine money, which is a nonsense, really. So, was he being the ultimate showman yesterday in selling the event? Or does he really have gripes? Is he the world's greatest moaner? You know, he's doing it again. If he was that disgusted last time, why is he doing it again? Why? For the money, of course, because he's a prize fighter. He's a pugilist. He's a pugilist who he's a prize fighter, literally a pugilist, and that's why he's doing it for the big bucks. That's why he is going out there on a limb and selling it. He's a brilliant showman. I thought he enjoyed some brinkmanship, some one-upmanship on Eddie Hearn yesterday, but probably picked his subjects a little bit loosely and was probably inaccurate on a couple of them.
Yeah, look, he called Robert Smith a scumbag. And again, making quite damning accusations towards the British Boxing Board of Control. Knowing what you know about the British Boxing Board of Control, and I know you have a relationship with Robert Smith, there will be kind of actions required, really, from the Boxing Board of Control because they want to remain and make sure their dignity is kept intact within all this, surely.
Yeah, absolutely right. Well, listen, there's no scumbag in Robert Smith. There's no question about that. He's a very honourable man who runs a very tight ship and a tough business. Um, the the line that boxers are used and abused by promoters is a well-worn path. And I do think it's justified at times to say it because we see fighters in their youth entertaining us, putting their bodies on the line, their brains on the line. And later in life, we see them often affected by that. And I think history tells us that the promoters have that role of the emperor, and the fighters are the gladiators fighting for their freedom. Some are better paid than others. Eubank is one of the better paid fighters. He's one of the 3% who probably will retire and not have to work again. And it's 3% on average. He's one of the big earners in the sport. For good reason, in my view. I've covered his entire career. I've always had a great relationship with Chris. He's a tremendous character, as is his father. I'm sad about the tragedy in their lives as well. Just recently, or maybe it was 6 months ago now, it was just before the last fight between them. I walked with Chris Eubank and the great Michael Watson down the Mall. I think you were there that
Yep, I
day.
was there. I was there.
Yeah, we did the Miracle Mile walk, didn't we? And those guys are my age, and you learn the terms of endearment after many years around people, and they have their gripes with you as a journalist for different reasons. And I've been prodded in the chest a few times by Eubank Sr., who I do respect as a very intelligent, very erudite man. And I share his concerns about his son having a limited rehydration clause. He should be able to put on whatever it is, 16 pounds in my view, or at least 10% of his body weight, rather than being reduced. I think he made that weight anyway, but the arguments will continue about around, did he turn up late? Did he give himself enough time? Was he delayed at the weigh, and who actually delayed him? That will continue to be a source and a bone of contention. But as Eubank Senior coined a couple of decades ago, that it's a mug's game, and what he meant by that was you have to get in and you have to get out, and you have to earn as much and keep as much your health intact as you can, because it's an inherently dangerous sport. And as I just said, it's when you look back at things that have happened to people in their careers, whether they cause the end of a life to another fighter, an opponent, or they damage themselves, or they cause irreparable damage to other fighters, it's a dangerous, inherently dangerous sport. And the older we get, we tend to get softer about these things. And I think Eubank Sr. is a very feeling man. Yes, he might be a narcissist, which we all enjoy, his posturing and all those things. And I think Chris can be a narcissist. We can all be a narcissist at times, but narcissistic. But it was, for many reasons yesterday, it was a very intelligent press conference rather than, it was a lot of he said, she said, but it was very deep and it was very intelligent. And I think Chris Eubank Jr. proved himself to be the instigator of a lot of trouble again and a disruptor, but fascinatingly creating thousands of headlines.
What do you make of the re-inclusion of Bomac within the Chris Eubank Jr. team? He said to us after he's 1-0 with Bomac. He's 1-0 in rematches with the Liam Smith when he brought him in. Um, yeah, so Bomac is back in the Eubank Jr. camp.
Yeah, I mean, Bomac's very clever. I mean, he didn't say a lot yesterday, but he's delighted to be there. He's a great character, of course, and he's been amazing for Terence Crawford. Terence Crawford, who I believe is pound for pound number one now, by the way, with Usyk 2 and Naoya Inoue 3. How privileged we are to have three what I think are all-time greats, all active at the moment, all undefeated, and still probably going to fight for the next year or two, or potentially two. Certainly in the Monsters case, Inoue. Yeah, Bomac's a great addition. Chris has had some great corner guys, hasn't he? He's had some great trainers with Ronnie Davis and his father, with Roy Jones Jr., with Adam Booth for a while, and
Jonathan Banks more recently.
Jonathan Banks, yes, of course, out in Riyadh when he fought Zeramata. Yeah, Bomac's a very good addition in my view, and he's a name and it just resonates. So it's very very good.
Last thing on the presser, Gareth. I watched your piece on Talksport with Spencer and Ben Shalom post
Yeah,
press conference, and we kind of see a different side to Ben Shalom in that video. He was very rolled up. You said after you've never seen him swear that much
yeah.
on camera. Why do you think that was?
Well, because he's really annoyed about the board not stepping in over the hydration clause. He didn't want to argue with it because obviously they've signed the contract. Why sign the contract then if you don't agree with the clause? Why? Because they want the money. Why? Because he can make 160. He can make 160. It's hard for him, but he can make it. Obviously, he's got to keep his body at a certain weight. It's the same conditions as the last time. I don't necessarily agree with it, as I've said, but don't sign the contract then. But he's adamant that the board should have been doing something about it, and he won't. He wouldn't answer the question, would he? He kind of went around the question when I put it back at him. Isn't there anything? Can't you make remonstrations to the board over this then? Because obviously the contract's being made with Seller, so Seller just need to go. All right, we're not doing it then. Doesn't affect their growth in the sport. It doesn't. All it is, it keeps them ticking over in this market because obviously they're very focused on the American market at the moment and making themselves resonant on that continent, with the likes of Tom Brady being brought to Saudi Arabia and Turkey Al Sheikh being with him on Monday Night Football and him talking about Crawford a few more fights and Canelo a few more fights. It wouldn't surprise me to see Canelo, I'm digressing, but it wouldn't surprise me to see Canelo being an ambassador for Riyadh season, rather like Cristiano Ronaldo is. So then you capture that Hispanic market. The bigger picture is they want Dana White involved because they want America to know who they are. They're doing their big PR move. Obviously, boxing is the cradle for that, but this is a big PR move for them. Bigger than a PR move. It's a statement from Saudi Arabia with their vast wealth and perspicacity in augmenting and accelerating their culture, but all into the West, but also advancing their modern society. So you've got to look at the bigger picture. We're dealing with the government here at the end of the day. He's a Saudi minister, Turkey Al Sheikh. We are dealing with a government, a very wealthy government with huge influence in the Middle East, who will be a superpower within 5 years, in my view. So back to the original point, which I've kind of got lost in now. Was it still about Ben
Ben
Shalom?
Shalom, yeah.
Yeah. So look, Shalom wanted his guy to have access. It allows Shalom to be active in this sphere still, even though he's got a deal with the BBC. I wanted to put another question to him, but I didn't have time, which was, given your deal with the BBC, is there any chance of you getting it on replay on the BBC a week later or anything? And I haven't had a chance to ask him about that. So I hope someone does ask him, because he's in a position to get that fight onto the BBC, in my view. Maybe, obviously, played
Yeah.
retrospectively, because they wouldn't allow it live because it's on DAZN, is it?
We haven't actually had that revealed yet, but last
Could be
time
on
it was on DAZN
Netflix.
and Sky. Could
Could
be
be on
on
Netflix.
Netflix. Could be
It'd
on
be great if
Netflix.
it was on Netflix.
I'm enjoying the Netflix. I'm enjoying it. But yeah, just to finish off, Gareth, last point away from the presser is Bud Crawford beating Canelo Alvarez. I know you was there. Terence Crawford, we know he's a pound for pound great. We know he's a generational great. But for you, is he an all-time great now?
Yeah, well, as I said just now, I think he goes to number one in the list right now. Three-weight undisputed, first man to do it. Um, a masterclass against Canelo, who whose single punches are his undoing now. He needs to punch in bunches. He was just hunting with single punches the entire time. He needs to get off combinations again, because he was exposed by Terence Crawford. And Crawford also displayed his majesty and brilliance. Yes, I think he's an all-time great. I think Noya Nui won at the weekend against Akhmadaliev, is also, the Uzbek is also an all-time great, and I think Alexander Usyk is as well. As I said, I think we're very fortunate in this era to have these three guys.
Excellent, Gareth. Thank you very much for speaking to IFLTV. Is there anything else you'd like to add before I let you
No,
go?
just that I think in the UK, given that this is announced now that October the 10th, Dave Allen and Arslanbek Makhmudov will be a great fun event in Sheffield, big fight city. Then we move on to Fabio Wardley, or Joseph Parker and Fabio Wardley, October 25th at the O2. And then November the 15th, we've got this great event with Eubank and Benn. So we're if Moses Hammer fights in December as well, as we've heard in Manchester, tic tac toe tick. We've got a great end to four very decent events, in my view, that kind of cap the end of the season here in, or the end of the year here in the UK. It's good. It's good. Boxing's alive. Really is alive.
Excellent, Gareth. Thank you very much, mate, and I will catch up with you very soon. See you, mate.
Very, very soon, like later tomorrow in somewhere in Essex.
Potentially, potentially. Cheers, mate.